He's Justin.
That's Jared.
We are two leashed dads that get together to discuss our everyday lives while chained to our parental responsibilities. For example, picking the right babysitter or daycare, and sometimes watching other people's kids. They could be your relatives, they could be strangers, neighbors. You know, I remember back in the day when there wasn't so much cray-cray around that I would literally go to the neighbor's house and be babysat by the neighbor's kids. Now, I wouldn't... Now I wouldn't trust my kids outside by themselves.
Guys, back in the dizzy and the cray-cray. The cray-cray dizzy. What the fuck is wrong with you, man? Dizzy? I've never even heard of that term before. You cracking
really?
some... No. Actually, I probably have. I just... You know, it was crap slang, unlike what we have nowadays, which is still crap slang. Because people are just, in a sense, a little lazy and don't want to say the actual right terms. But, anyway.
Biznitch.
Yeah, that's it, basically. Even though it's longer. You might have an extra syllable in there before you get to the actual point. Anywho, any freaking who. No, Jared, you are absolutely right. If it comes down to it, although I'm actually concerned, you went to your friend's or neighbor's house to get babysat? Normally it's...
I was probably...
Are you sure you weren't
over
babysitting
4.
them?
No, all the neighbor kids were older than me, except for maybe one.
I'm so sorry for you.
It's fine.
Yeah, it is what it is. It's not a big deal anymore, right? No, it's interesting because every time I had a babysitter, they always came to me. Or every time I babysat, I went to their house. Why not? You are babysitting them. Why? I mean, at that point, if you're going to a house, it's almost like you're going to daycare or childcare of some sort. Now,
yeah, I mean,
semantics.
We can get into it later, but
Whatever.
I do have some scenarios where I was at the person's house being babysat.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. I certainly would love to see some of those examples because that to me is a very interesting sense that it is going to their house to be babysat versus them coming to babysit you. But welcome everybody. Leashed Dads are back. We're having a great time already with the dizzy.
And the cray-cray.
Oh, Jared, the cray bizzy dizzy. God damn, I hate you so much right now. Hey, I'm going to start off because I feel like this week is just... I took another freaking nap today. I took another nap.
You wild animal, you.
I know. Somebody put me in a hospital or something. No, I had a really week. The weekend is where it got really fun. I guess here... Saturday, took the kids to the like a children's museum or a building for kids. Basically, it's where they can go burn off a lot of energy. And my wife and I, well, more or less, my wife Sam, she met up with one of her old friends who has children as well. But we are looking into putting our youngest child, Eleonora, into like a daycare.
Okay.
It's going to be very crazy and very heartbreaking for Sam.
Yeah.
But it needs to be done because there's no way when I'm working through the week and Sam goes back to work that I can necessarily take or balance that type of lifestyle. It would not be very easy. As far as the rest of it, the reason I took a nap is because Kane had another tournament. We went up to Little Shoot here, and it was called Little Mustang Tournament. It was at the high school, whatever it is nowadays, but it was a Little Mustang tournament. This time it was a full mat whereas most of his other tournaments were like half the mat because they had so many other wrestlers that this one actually is very different because they had a maximum of 350 people.
Okay.
So it was once 350 people signed up, any more was basically like, nope, sorry, too late. So he had a good time. 4 out of 4 again, but he got to, at least this time, he got to wrestle 3 times. So it was a good experience. He wrestled he wrestled 3 times. He wrestled another kid again that he's wrestled before from like previous tournament. It's just really funny to me that all of a sudden these kids are running into each other again. But you know, it's a good thing because that's how it is in wrestling too. You're going to always wrestle people in your own weight class.
Did he win?
No, he didn't win any matches.
No? Okay.
But yeah, all the kids were fairly aggressive, and the biggest thing he can improve on, honestly, is not being aggressive, because he's pretty good at that. It's just once they get him taken down and they're on top of him, it's him fighting to get back up and actually doing like a reversal thing.
Yeah.
So it's hard, and there's a lot of people that I would say, struggle with reversing anything and being the more dominant one at that point. But yeah, so yeah, it was, and then but during the school week too, I ended up taking the kids to school like Wednesday through Friday because there were some things going on in life that was preventing their grandma from taking them to school. So
okay,
her sister has been in the hospital because some cancer had spread to the brain, and it's causing her to lose motor function in one of her legs.
Oh no!
So yeah,
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it's not fun. I don't know what they're necessarily planning to do. I just know that they were going down to do a consultation down in Freighted or have a consultation for Freighted to see if there's anything they could do, or whatnot. So that's as much detail as I know, honestly, about everything. But she's been in the hospital. So her sister, now my aunt-in-law, has been there with. Yeah, it's been a crazy week. End of the week, at least. So, not fun. What about you? Tell me more about... I mean, that's kind of a sad thing to go off of. But tell me more about your week.
I don't know. JJ and I met earlier this week to discuss this episode, and I had just come off of another trigger day, which, ironically, again, was after a full moon. You know, I have not been a superstitious guy. Maybe a little stitious. But... You know, I've getting into this spiritual research and all that. The moon obviously plays some sort of role in everything. And when I'm starting to roll in everything. Maybe coincidence. Prove me wrong. Send me an email. leashdads14@gmail.com. Let me know if you believe that all this spiritual moon stuff is legit, because it's pretty damn coincidental that after every full moon, the day after or the Wednesday after has just been a day where I get filled with rage because of my outside world. So,
yeah. On top of that, guys, you can even call us on Anchor FM or whatever, leave us a message, I think. You can also message us on Facebook, Leashed Dads.
Yep.
You can always DM me on Twitter. Again, like Jared said, email us. And then I think there was one more. No, that's about it.
Well, there's several different ways you can get a hold of us.
Several different platforms.
Yeah.
You're able to get a hold of us, so yeah. Or you can always.
So whether it's coincidence or not, thank goodness I've been working on myself, and I was able to bring myself back down. It was so bad I needed to step out and go into the parking lot and just regroup my thoughts. And microphone. Did you yell at the world? It only took me about 15 minutes, where usually it would ruin the rest of my entire night/day.
Did you yell at the world then?
No. I just did some breathing exercises and closed my eyes and realized what is really important. So And the situation that was making me mad is not that important.
Well, let's not trigger it again. So I like that. It'll prevent me from asking you. So excellent. Way to shut it down right away.
Yeah.
What else though?
Yeah, and then I'm looking forward. They got a company-wide meeting earlier the week before that event, and there's some big changes happening that I'm really excited for. More growth opportunity coming down the pipeline here in the next few years, as well as an opportunity to stretch my leadership muscles in a big system transfer from one operating system to the next. And ironically, it's one I've already used in my old job. So I am already 10 steps ahead of a lot of people, which is great.
That's good.
So hopefully that leads to something good.
Means you could teach people how to use the system.
And I did that at my previous job too, when we first, because I did a transfer there too.
Nice.
So it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
Saturday, yesterday, father-daughter morning. Got the old Hot Wheels tracks out. I did a no-no and had him going down the stairs. I tried to do a track where the momentum of the stairs speed did a loop around the landing of the stairs and like down the hallway, but it was too fast and I couldn't bank the curve enough to get it to stick. So I just kind of gave up and put a pillow at the bottom of the stairs. But it was a good time with my girls. It was a good day. No breakdowns, no insane temper tantrums. So I've learned to just talk it out with them, and it seems to work and calm them down. So I'm sticking with that. I'm switching up parenting styles. Flashback.
Whoa. Flashback.
Listen to the episode, folks.
Authoritarian parenting styles. You know.
Yeah. So I'm taking the approach, again, treating them like an adult and even just calmly talking about it. Whether they understand you or not, your energy is still somewhat positive and not, I'm angry because you're angry. It's take a deep breath, chill. It's not that big a deal, just like I did with myself in the parking lot.
Yep.
So
you're not talking down to them, you're talking to them.
Correct. And then today was our first YMCA visit as a family, and
I have an orange towel.
Did some swimming. It was nice.
Are you putting them in
Girls
swimming
loved
lessons then?
We're working on it. I asked Natalie if she think that'd be a good idea if they'd listen to the instructor, but I don't know. We'll see.
Good as a time as ever. I mean, as long as one parent's there too, that's what it really comes down to. So
right.
Yeah. That sounds like a good time.
But I didn't have an opportunity to hire a babysitter, and I didn't watch anybody else's children this weekend, just my own.
Isn't that how it usually is?
Yeah.
It's always a good thing. Yeah, we didn't have to hire a babysitter at all this week or weekend. Usually, like with some tournaments, or previous tournaments, we've asked my parents to watch the kids, like the boys, because
they don't like going.
It can get boring sitting there for a few hours for a child. Even with like things to do for them, they can get pretty bored pretty quick.
Okay.
Especially with a long time frame when they have to be locked down and kind of next to mom and dad or whoever. But obviously, Kane has to go because he's, essentially contractually obligated to go because he's the one that wanted to sign up for the tournaments and go. Or he shows interest and continues to show interest. I can't speak tonight. Jesus Christ. But then Eleonora, too young to, still at that very fragile age to even think about leaving with somebody else right now.
Yeah.
But, yeah, the boys came along this time because we didn't necessarily ask ahead of time to see if anybody would be able to watch the kids. So... But it is what it is. Not a big deal. We still made it work. Nico ended up taking a nap in the bleachers. He's just like his mother, can fall asleep basically. he can fall asleep anywhere, just like Sam could. You know,
if Sam, Natalie's the same way. It drives me nuts.
Comfortable. You can get comfortable on the couch or the bed or wherever you are. He passes out. Like most times when he does take a nap at home, he can pass out. He'll pass out on the floor.
Wow.
He's even passed out on our stairs.
You know, not to get off on a side tangent, but I really envy the people who can just relax and sleep anywhere. Because I'm borderline insomnia where I have to have a certain mindset in order to just fall asleep.
Different type of insomnia, huh? That's always an interesting factor. But no, it's very interesting because he takes after Mom in the fact that he can sleep anywhere, okay? But then he takes after me in the fact that he's out like a light.
Oh, and then you can't wake him up?
Oh, no, we can wake him up. We just choose not to, because it'll be a bear. But I mean, we had to wake him up because we had to go finish up Kane's tournament. I mean, Kane's tournament was pretty set forward. Okay, first 2 rounds done. They took a break between second and third round for basically the refs to get lunch, like a half hour. Okay, after that, you had your third round, and once the third round was done, you basically went to go get like the bracket saying who had won and whatnot, and then you went and got your awards, and then you were gone. So it is what it is. And Nico was still napping at the time, but we had to basically wake him up, pick him up, and move him because we were done. So the tournament we were done by like 1:30ish or something like that. So not too bad, but. It's the point being, again, we didn't wake him up at all during the time. We just kind of let him lay. So he didn't lay on, you know how bleachers are set up, right? Where he's got this seat and then like where your feet go. He was in between he was on the feet spot.
Oh, okay.
So it was funny watching him, and then people going around, like, kind of like sitting around him in a sense that weren't us. So, yeah, no, it was a great time. I'm just surprised that he can do that, but hey, it works. So, yeah, hey, let's talk about some babysitting. I know you said you didn't have to babysit any kids yet, and my parents didn't have to babysit the kids this weekend. I'm curious because babysitting and daycare is actually a very huge thing for a lot of parents, right? So tell me. What is your biggest fear?
Well, it's twofold. One, that they're going to lose their shit, and the babysitter or daycare provider is not going to be able to calm them down, and then it's just going to not be a pretty situation. I am not comfortable because of that reason. But I just have to have confidence, and they're actually getting better. And then the second reason is that they're safe. Safety is the biggest concern. Being in the job that I have, my previous position, I was a manager or account manager for a bunch of churches and their insurance, which brings up their daycare system as well as maybe some babysitting opportunities that the church offers. And there have been some horror stories of some abuse. So that's always in the back of my mind, unfortunately. How about you?
Yeah. God. And this is probably a lot of people's fear in a sense. I mean, you kind of nailed it on the head, I think. Because I can speak on Sam's fear a little bit, especially with Al and Nora right now. And having basically 6 months off and then having to go back to work and be separated. Getting the proper or meeting the needs of the child is like Sam's biggest fear. Because if you put them in a daycare, like, so when I say daycare at this point, I'm talking like a facility, right? Like a church daycare or the YMCA, for example. Okay?
Yes.
Just those examples, right? Eleanor does not like to be really put down. She likes to be held, which I think is kind of a problem in itself, being too dependent on being held and comforted that way. But if we put her in a facility like that, the people in those rooms, they have like, I don't know how many, but one person or one adult still has like 4 or 5 infants to themselves. You can't necessarily hold one all the time.
No.
So that's kind of the biggest concern there. I think my concern is more or less just adjusting to it. Again, I say again because I've done it before, but it's adjusting and budgeting for it.
Budgeting, oh.
So, and don't worry, we will definitely get into the cost because it is hella different. I mean, that's the one thing I hate about it. It's just like it puts more of a strain on a budget for those that maybe can't even afford it. Yes, there is help out there, but at the same time, it's still expensive.
Right.
So, that's my biggest fear is the costs. And being able to make sure you can allocate and budget for it and whatnot. So, yeah. I mean, I think anybody's fear should be validated, right? I understand where you're coming from with the care or making sure that they're safe, because I would hate. And I guess when you say when they're safe, are you talking like just safe from everything, or do you know? Or do you have in the back of your mind right now that Eleanor could get bit or scratched by a child? And you're, as much as you're a parent and you don't want to ever hear that, is that something you'd be concerned about? Or is that something you'd be like, okay, now I knew it was going to happen eventually?
The other children are less of a concern than the adults in the room. An older child would be a real big concern as well. And as far as, there has to be enough supervision to prevent the child-on-child attacks and fights. Because it happens in school, too. So you can't really avoid that.
Mm-hmm.
But my biggest fear for safety would be from the adults in the room.
Okay. I had to clarify because I had to ask because because like you said, things at school happen, obviously, and you as a parent can't be there. So you can't protect the parent, or you as a parent can't protect your child. But even faculty can't always protect your child either. Even though that's one of their roles as a teacher or a staff member is to protect the child or all the children's needs, for their well-being, but sometimes you can't. Each person only has 2 eyes, and right. Honestly, as the older, in a daycare, as you get in the older grade, like older sections, because they do break it down by sections too. They kind of have to. Believe it or not, I believe the ratio of student and faculty member does go up a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, I believe it's like 1 to 8 or 1 to 10 or something like that in the room. So, I don't remember. I know, I wish I would have asked somebody else to come on to the show tonight.
Yeah.
I wish I would have asked my mom. Funny enough, she actually works for the Y.
Part 2.
we'll have to revisit this one, but maybe have a part 2 or something like that. I don't know yet. We'll figure it out. So all fears should be validated. Honestly, they're not. We're never going to shove anything aside. I would love for you guys to share your fears as well. So if you don't mind, again, send us an email, leashdads14@gmail.com. Do something. Share us a story, or share us a fear. We'd love to hear it. And if you're okay with it, we can definitely share the fear in a later episode or whatnot too. Or if, just tell us if you have a question, let us know. But so daycare certainly changed with COVID, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people started, if they had the ability, started working from home. And what happened with daycare? Priority shift. Are you familiar with the priority shift?
As far as like essential, non-essential, or
yeah, exactly.
The priority of family over work.
Those who were on the front lines. So like the nurses, or those that really couldn't shut down, and if they did, shit would hit the fan. Yeah, so a lot of daycares, I think, shifted in priority to basically provide for those who that were like either single parents that were on the front lines, like a nursing, or had to go into this like store all the time to do their, continue doing a job for people that needed it, such as when people were buying toilet paper products all the time from like the stores, from retail.
Yeah.
So it was that thing. I think a lot of that happened, where if you were actually working from home, I think a lot of those daycares like, oh, you should just leave your child home. Now, still, that's not always a good thing, okay? As much as being able to work from home and not put your child in daycare is great, because it cuts down on such a cost, right? And I'm talking a weekly cost, even a monthly cost. Hell, the yearly cost, honestly, if you think of it this way, I know it changes based on the state you're in. Let's see here. Wisconsin. Oops, if I can type in Wisconsin. Daycare. Average daycare cost. So the average cost of a child care provider in Wisconsin. The average cost of a child care provider in Wisconsin is about $13.16 per hour. So, and some of these actually have it broken down here a little bit. How much does daycare cost per day in Wisconsin? Child care rates. Infant young toddlers, which is 6 weeks to 24 months, full time, 30 to 40 hours, is about $241
a week.
Sorry, yeah, $241 a week. Children 2 to 3 of age, part time, 2 days a week, 4 days per hour, is $160 per week. Full time for 4 to 5 year olds, 30 to 40 hours is $225 a week. It just goes on and on. Now, granted, I think that's more of an average throughout the state. You think if you're putting them in that, 30, 40 hours a week for an entire month, that's roughly $1,000.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Freaking crazy. And then, that's just a single child. Imagine having multiple children in daycare now. I've done it.
Yeah.
I've had to do it, and it was not fun because it was about $700 a piece. So, when I was able to work from home and the children are on summer vacation, now granted, my children are fairly old enough to take care of themselves, so that's nice. They're not necessarily always relying on me to help them. But knowing that I'm still home and able to help them out when needed, or step away from my desk, take breaks, it helps cut back on costs.
Mm-hmm.
So saving an extra $700 a month, or
it's huge.
Not even $700, but frickin', because it's per child.
Right.
So $700 or $800 or like $600-700 a week. is huge. Oh my gosh. Like, honestly, that's my paycheck.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's scary. So I think working from home has been a blessing in disguise in regards to that. But again, like I said, the cost of childcare, yeah, I guess it is kind of necessary because if you think of it, like I said, $16 an hour. Okay? I mean, compare that to babysitting. The babysitter kind of makes their own price. I used to charge I don't even remember what I charged. But it also depends on
it was a flat fee.
Well, you can always do a flat fee, like $10 an hour or whatever. But you can also change it based on how many kids you're watching. So, 2 kids, $8 an hour, right? That's $16 just between 2 kids. Where if you only watch 1 kid for an hour, you're only making $10. All depends. So, I mean, 2 kids at $8 is better than 1 kid at $10.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's always going to change. I've walked away with a decent money, but I was never too picky. Sadly, I was like the only boy in my neighborhood that had a babysitting certificate. So I was in competition with girls. I've had a few opportunities. I had a few opportunities. I think I had a total of 3 or 4 houses that I babysat for every now and then, once in a while. So, it was nice. Maybe sucks when you're like the boy in the neighborhood and not necessarily the one that people would expect to watch a child. But hey, it works. So, yeah. What about you? I mean, like I said, I think it's been a blessing in disguise, but it's coming to an end for me.
Yeah. Well, thankfully, we were able to stop the daycare when COVID hit, and then once it kind of went back to normal, whatever that means, we were able to stick with our schedule because if it ever push came to shove, I mean, obviously Oliver's in school right now, but if push came to shove, we would have to have a serious discussion about cutting somebody's work hours or just quitting in general because we couldn't afford it.
Mm. Have you guys looked into like state care or state assistance?
We wouldn't qualify.
Make too much or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same boat we are. So, I'm pretty sure if I think about it. Now, we do have some state assistance for certain things, but I think with childcare, it would definitely hurt us because of the jobs. I mean, I probably still I'm under the threshold, honestly, when it comes to it. If I was living on my own, I could probably make something work, and I could definitely get assistance.
Yeah,
but that's not the case. So, yeah. And I think it's a hard decision to make too, having somebody quit to watch the kids full time or whatnot, and having somebody just be the sole income, because you'd have to make sure that sole income is going to be sufficient for everything else. Then,
right.
So, or I mean, sometimes you
just have to have the difficult conversation if that ever happened. But knock on wood.
Yeah, you'll get there, well, hopefully you don't have to get there. But if it ever happened, hopefully you guys are able to have that conversation. And I recommend that for anybody out there that ever needs that type of conversation, maybe sometimes the sooner is better than later. That way you're not stressing about it and you have some sort of plan. Because, like I said, if you have multiple kids that need to go into daycare, you're looking at, depending on the number of kids, right? 2 kids. If you're here in Wisconsin, you're already looking at $400 a week.
Yep.
If they're full time. It's crazy. It's very crazy. Actually, it's funny because our our friend, or my wife's friend that we met up with on Saturday, is an in-home care provider.
Oh, okay.
So we may be looking at her, but we also had gotten a phone call. Excuse me. We'd gotten a phone call from somebody else here, a facility, and they are charging like $330 a week. So I mean, it's not bad, but
no,
it's a premium in a sense because there's a lot more. I mean, I think from what they do is provide like diapers and food and everything too. So they're charging a little more.
300 and whatever isn't that bad then.
No, but her friend is only doing like $250.
No brainer.
Well, still gonna go get a peace of mind of have a tour of the facility, and whatnot, just to see what it's like. So I mean, $330, all depending on what that would be. Yes, it's not bad. But if you also, I mean, and not to mention, we could almost get her going in May. They have like a spot in May. But I think our Sam's friend has a spot opened pretty soon anyways. So it might put us on, basically ready to go when ready to go. Not have us on a waiting list or anything like that. So
yeah.
It's nice having I would say it's nice having those connections. But yeah. So cost. Always a thing you must consider. As it's never cheap.
Yeah, before you have a kid, we've talked about a lot of things you need to prep for. Childcare is one of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially if you guys are planning to return to work right away or not to.
Right.
Definitely need to prep for that. Take your time off. But make sure you're also financially stable for it. And
right.
Childcare is one of those questions you need to ask yourself with the financials. It really is. So, even if it means cutting out those fast food restaurants or those fancy meals every so often, just to save $100 here and there.
Every little bit helps.
Yeah, no doubt. Babysitting, though. Slightly different. And I know I was kind of going on this before. With Jared in the beginning here, how he was being babysat at the other person's house versus them coming to him to babysit. I'm very curious. When you're looking for a babysitter here, and I know when you know you have something going on, how much time do you provide as a notice, or how much of a notification do you provide when trying to find a babysitter?
Yeah, ideally a week. I mean, that could be really short in some people's opinions, but I guess a week would be acceptable. But since I'm Mr. Last Minute, I guess I wouldn't. I would ask somebody a day in advance, but I wouldn't be confident in the answer. What about you?
If you know full well that you're going to need a babysitter at a specific time, you're probably going to want to ask well off. And I'm talking...
Well, yeah.
No, I'm not talking like a week. I'm talking if you have something coming up in March. Okay, let's say we're looking at April, right? Let's say I have a show to go to in April. And no kids are allowed. Okay? I'm going to try to find somebody and try to book it, in a sense. Or have something. Now, if I struggle to do that sometimes, or forget to do it, I did at one point have somebody that we were able to rely on. That was always kind of like a last minute spot. Because it's a family member, right? Family is basically going to do whatever they can to help you out, I should say.
Right.
Not so much anymore, but it's one of those things. Try to, we try to like use family because it's cheaper. Not to mention the family members that do watch the kids also enjoy the time anyways. because it's, their opportunity to bond and to hang out with the children when they might not get to see them as much. But when it comes to trying to find an actual babysitter that you're going to have to pay money towards, I like to have it more than a week in advance or so, or try to, because you gotta plan around their schedule too.
Right.
You got to make sure. You can't just be like, hey, by the way, can you watch my child for me for 8 hours? Oh, yeah, I can do that. You can? Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, and then you come to be like, hey, can you do it again? No, I work. Oops. And now you're scrambling to find somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think once you know what it is you need them or need somebody for, you should be trying to do that right there and then.
Right.
Because then you might, if you can't find anybody that you want to pay, for example, that you can trust and pay, then you can fall back onto family. Not saying you should fall onto family first or whatever, but if you know somebody has, if you think somebody has nothing going on and you know that they are a babysitter and they're looking for experience as well towards childcare or trying to make some money, you want to try to give them that opportunity.
Correct.
So, and I've done that in the past. We've had some people that we had babysit, like Arlo and Nico, when they were younger and whatnot. So, it was good times. But yeah. Otherwise, it'll be, sometimes we just use relatives, like I said, that just don't have things going on during certain times. Like, we used to use Sam's father, even when I was working from home. He would watch, like, Nico, though, when he was younger. But, after his passing, very hard to use him. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, so don't do last minute. It doesn't work so well. And if it does work, you're getting very lucky. But honestly, I pray to God that maybe sometimes the babysitter at that point charges a little extra. Not to be against you in any way or anybody like that, but if you are the last minute planning, it needs to come to an end, especially for something like this. I mean, I get that we forget. As parents, we've got a lot going on. But sometimes when there are important dates that come up that you know well enough in advance, you should probably try to find out. Find somebody.
So, in this day and age, would you use a neighbor or an acquaintance to babysit your kids?
If I know them, sure. If I'm confident enough in asking them, yes. I've actually kind of done that once or twice here. Like my neighbor, literally next door neighbor, that if I look up and look at their house, I would feel confident in them watching my children, because they've interacted, and I've actually at one point asked them to watch like Nico and Arlo at one point, because there's something going on. And then there are some other people I would start to give an opportunity to watch my children, some of my neighbors, because my children have interacted with their children, have played with them over summers. So knowing that they are acquainted or familiar is always a nice thing. But at the same time, though, I've tried to ask them first if that's something they would be able to do, not just be like last minute either.
Yeah.
But yes, to your question, I would trust my neighbors. So, at least with the older kids.
What are some positive things you look for and look forward to? Like, when you were babysitting, was there anything positive about it?
Besides
cash?
besides the cash, besides the greed that's kicking in my head right now, going, all right, Justin, let's think of something else that's not money or monetary. Getting the experience. I think getting the experience of taking care of a child, even if they're like 5 to 7 years younger than you or whatever, getting that experience of taking care of somebody. Because if you know you want to be a parent, I know, crazy, 14 years old maybe and wanting to be a parent or whatever, but let's say you have something like that in your head, right? Kudos to you if you have something like that in your head already. Like, I know I want to be a parent when I get older. I should get the experience. You're probably thinking, I want the babysitting experience because I want to be able to do it more and more for somebody else, or prove to mom and dad that if I have a sibling, that I can watch them and know that they're going to be okay. Does it change? I think because of its being a sibling, yes, it changes a little bit. Maybe mom and dad do put more trust into you right away. But if you start watching one child or somebody else's parents, it can spread. Because now they know somebody that may need somebody to watch their kids. And now they trust you, so they're going to spread, your name is going to be spread word of mouth. Right. So having that experience is great, because maybe you do want to go into childcare or some sort of in-home care assistance provider, right? So getting that type of experience is always great. I also like the idea of being able to interact with children. Getting to know, maybe you don't always get to know them, because you like to hang out with your friends, but they like to hang out, like they're busy at school and hanging out with their friends or whatever. But at this point, being able to just get to talk to people that are different than you is always great. Because truthfully, you can have friends of many different ages, right? I've got, as crazy as it sounds, I have a few, friends that are younger than me, but they're my friends because, yeah, sure, we went to high school together, but they're still younger than me. They're still 4 or 5 years younger than me.
Doesn't matter.
I still count that a significant age difference in friends.
Yeah.
So, and heck, my neighbor, I count him and his girlfriend, fiance, a friend as well. And they're like my parents' age. Or they're up there in age as well. Because they have my neighbor Scott, he's got a son that's my age.
Okay.
So, yeah. I think it's great to have those age friends, like gaps of friends, because you never know. Maybe one day they have children. You need them, or they need you.
Right.
So, yeah, that's my one of my positive takeaways about myself doing babysitting. As far as a positive takeaway about childcare or babysitting in general, I think childcare, the social aspect. Your children are actually able to go out and socialize with children of their age.
At a young age.
At a young age. They get the social interaction. Right. And guys, that is critical, right? That is a critical development for your child. Whereas some people are like, nope, you got to stick with mom or stick with dad. You're staying home, blah, 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 blah. Well, and then all of a sudden you ship them off to school and they have no social interaction at all. Because let's say you've never taken them to a park and let them play with kids there. You're always, nope, stay away. They'll never get and they're always going to be like, I've always played by myself. Now what?
Yeah, especially if it's an only child. It's important to get them in front of other kids.
Yep. Very much so. So, it helps. Siblings can help in a sense, but sometimes if there's such a, they look at it as like, oh, well, I can't do what I want to do because this one is 5 years younger than me. I want to be a little more aggressive or a little more rough, but I can't. And you can. You just got to remember that sometimes they don't want to do it. So, no, childcare, definitely the social aspect. Babysitting, I think, allows your children to build relationships or rapport with people that you trust, and they can start trusting as well. Knowing that knowing nothing's going to happen. Knowing that somebody else is there to take care of them if they need somebody. Because that, those bonds are critical as well. What about you? I mean, you've said you've had your parents watch the kids a couple times. What are some takeaways, positive takeaways you would look at or can think of?
I get to spend time alone with my wife. That's a positive.
There you go. Selfish.
And
positive, but it's still a positive nonetheless, right? Those are still critical.
Yeah. And the fact that they get spoiled when they're at their grandparents, or if their grandparents are here, they get spoiled, and they need it every once in a while.
Yep.
Free from the reins of mom and dad, and telling them no all the time, But the open fridge policy when I was a babysitter was pretty cool. Did a lot of rooting around in their fridges.
Jared, were you taking the beer?
No. Just
you're basically
leftover pizza and whatnot.
Yeah. Okay. No, I know exactly what you mean. I don't think I've ever had that. I think because you were told too you shouldn't necessarily cook.
No.
You shouldn't be turning on the stove.
Popcorn,
and
maybe.
Maybe popcorn, yeah. But if they're going out and it's like around the dinner time, or you know that they're going out to eat and you need to feed the kids still, it's usually here's some money for pizza or something like that, so you don't necessarily have to cook. But guess what, guys? Everything's becoming more expensive.
Yeah. Right. I remember, there's a story when I was a little kid, and we had one of my cousins babysit me. He was older than I was, obviously. But he was like maybe 12 or something, and he put a frozen pizza in the toaster oven, and it just burnt. It almost burnt the entire kitchen down. It was so bad. Needless to say, I don't think he watched me after that.
He's probably too afraid, or like, oh crap, I don't need this experience again. It's a terrible experience, but it's an experience nonetheless. What are my aunts and uncle or whatever going to think about me now for nearly burning down or not knowing how to properly cook a pizza? It sucked.
A frozen pizza.
A frozen pizza, yeah. But still cooking the pizza nonetheless. But yeah, no, I think that's kind of funny. So, babysitting, it's very critical. But I like your point about being able to get away. I would love to do that more often, and eventually we will be able to.
Yeah.
I think if we didn't have another child, we'd be able to start pawning the kids off.
Is it getting late for you, buddy?
Tad bit, I guess. Just a little bit. No, I should be fine. But
another positive thing that I can think of is getting the children, especially if you bring them over to the person's house, they're getting a different way of life they're seeing. For example, when I was a kid, my cousins, different cousins, babysat me. Well, they had an N64, and I had nothing like that at home. So if my kids had that opportunity, that'd be badass, because that'd be so awesome for them, because they're not going to get it here.
No, that's, I never actually thought about it that way. And that's very interesting that you say it. It's because, like you said, if you're never going to, I'm not saying it's bad at all to not have those, but they get exposed to different things, a different environment. It's a treat. You're right. And if the person is coming over to your house to babysit the child, they are in their own environment where, yes, them feeling safe is very critical and whatnot, but sometimes they might feel too safe.
Right.
So when I say too safe, they might do something that might seem abnormal to the babysitter. And they might catch the babysitter off guard, and the babysitter's like, I don't know what to do.
Right.
So, I think
like you have your set traditions, not traditions, but you have your set schedules and set things where the child is used to doing. But if you're not there and they can't clearly communicate, well, then that's going to create some tension and frustration in the babysitting process.
Or really. Uncertainty, too. And like, what do I do? I've actually had that experience, and it wasn't necessarily at the house. We had to change it up a little bit, where we had one babysitter that watched Kane and Arlo at one point, but one was a little rambunctious and problematic, where she was like the babysitter was actually afraid to bring it up while talking to him or with us, because he was there. Didn't necessarily want to hurt the child's feelings.
Okay.
But it was because he wasn't getting the attention.
Oh.
Right. A little more focused on the other child because of being a certain age. But also having the idea of having so much attention already or whatnot, or having no attention, it does hurt a kid a little bit, right? So, trying to get the attention, and it wasn't very pleasant. So, what happened is I guess I'm stabbing myself now by saying we did try the babysitting at somebody else's house, but we had changed it back to bring them back into an environment that they're already familiar with. So by bringing the babysitter to us, and that kind of leads me to this like final discussion point here as well that I do want to cover with you as well. Choosing the right childcare location or babysitter. What are some qualifications that you would maybe go through, or like a checklist, a mental checklist?
If I were to choose daycare provider, I would like it within a 5 to 10 minute drive of wherever I'm going, or or home. So proximity of like 10 minutes maximum from home or work. And then also, you don't want to leave your kids with a babysitter and you go to Cancun for a week. You're better off finding a relative or grandparents to help you out with that sort of thing. So I would not be comfortable leaving my children with acquaintance, friend, neighbor, not family. I would not be comfortable with leaving them for more than like 6 hours, a half an hour away. That's my craziness. What about you?
When it comes to picking the right location, I would rather feel comfortable knowing the staff is going to be, is adequate to watch my children.
You're talking staff-wise, not distance.
Oh, distance is still a qualification.
Oh. Okay.
I'm a little more lenient, though, about it. I guess the reason I'm a little lenient about it is because I was working in downtown College Avenue at one point, but when I was living with my parents, one child was at one location, and that's where he'd gone for his time, right? But then when I moved in with my wife, after we started dating, he still went there. Our first child together, ended up going to an in-home daycare. So I had to, pick up one child from one location and drive to the other end. It would have been nice to have him in the same location, but it didn't work out that way because of not having room at the time or whatever. And not to mention cost was also a factor. But making sure that, so location, like proximity distance wise, I would say about 10 to 15 minutes, maybe. More, I guess, I think 10 minutes would be the high end, honestly, as well. That way I know I still have enough time to get to work at a reasonable time.
Or if you needed to go pick them up for some reason.
Yep. So 10 minutes max. 15 is just maybe if I really needed to stretch it. Because, I mean, that requires you to leave a little earlier, right, throughout your day.
Mm-hmm.
Or, like, when you have to, you know, let's say you have to be to work at 8 o'clock, but you have to run multiple children around or whatnot. You can't be leaving the house at 7:45. You might have to leave the house at 7 o'clock. Or whatnot. So,
right.
No, but proximity to where you're located is huge. I would say about maybe a 10-minute drive, so about 3 or 5 miles, something like that, within your area. Knowing the staff, though, you have to know the staff. So taking a tour, doing whatever, feeling comfortable and knowing that the staff is going to be adequate for your child's needs, which you can obviously address during the tour or whatnot, filling out paperwork as well, so they can know your child a little bit before they maybe even get to start working with them. As far as a babysitter, that just comes down to having the opportunity to have them interact with the child or having already somewhat of a trust. So if you know somebody that has already babysat or has experience, like I would probably still rely on some of my friends that I grew up with that even babysat while we were kids. And I've actually tried to ask one of them before if they could, but found out that she was somewhere else, like in a different part of the state. So made it very difficult. But I would still try to rely on them because they are some people I would trust over anything, over like a random stranger. So would I probably ask them before I ask my neighbors that I trust? Yeah. Even if it comes down to paying them, but it is what it is. So, no, I mean, those are some.
Have them over for dinner.
Yeah, I could do that.
Yeah. See how they react with your kids in a lot of situations. Right. And also, on your point with the daycare, you maybe have the opportunity to go sit down in a day and watch the interactions the instructors have with the kids as well. Hopefully, they have that option. If not, I'd be kind of scared for you.
Well, that's part of it. That's part of the tour. You don't necessarily sit down, but when you hopefully if you're taking notes or your perspective, like when you are walking around and seeing the different rooms, you do see how each instructor or staff member is taking care of children, even on their schedule. Like, okay, kids, time to get ready to go outside, or let's have a snack. You know, I mean, obviously they're going to do their best without having to do any kind of like punishment or things of that nature. But how well do those kids listen or have how well does that teacher have the respect of the children, knowing that they're actually going to listen to them, to their commands or instruction? I'll call it instruction because it's not really like them demanding it or commanding them to do it. It's like, okay, well, it's our time to go outside. Let's go. Let's get your stuff on.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, so overall, guys, when it comes to all these wonderful things, I want you to really keep in mind, really weigh out when it comes to babysitting and childcare, finding ways to overcome the costs. How can you justify it? Because the last thing I want you to do is feel like you're, struggling financially. And if that's your fear, how do you find a way to work around it? Can you find a way to work around it? Maybe it is finding that family member that has nothing to do. So maybe it's like a retired family member. They're able to come watch your children, or you can drop them off for the day.
Right.
Or maybe it's a friend that doesn't care about the money and will do it for you because that's what, I don't want to say that's what a friend should do, but maybe that's just their way of looking at it. It's like, if, I'd probably ask them to do it too, and hopefully they wouldn't charge me. I probably wouldn't do it. I don't think I would charge a friend. If a friend stuffs money down my throat, it's one thing, but I wouldn't say no, but I wouldn't tell them they have to pay me anything for it. Because I'm gonna, it's like a family friend discount at that point. You need help. You're not coming to me if you didn't need help. So, but yeah, just try to find ways that if the working from home environment isn't working out for it to be, and children are kind of a bear, try to find something feasible, financially feasible for yourself. There are things out there, and if you need assistance, don't be afraid to get state assistance. There are qualifications that you have to meet, but the only way to find out is to try to go for it.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. I'm ready for some laughs. How about you? Do you want some daycare laughs today?
Yeah.
Yeah? Alright.
Let's do it.
I'm having problems finding the right ones. God, I feel like these are not good. What do you call playing Fortnite during the day?
Fort Day.
Daycare. It's
okay.
Well, I mean, if you think of it this way, children that get addicted to Fortnite, that's basically what they do all day anyways.
Oh, I know.
Jesus. Can't share that one. My father always tells me to work hard. But last time I did that, I got fired from the daycare. Honestly, I don't think we're going to have very good ones tonight, guys. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry.
Do you get that one?
No. I don't.
No? Okay.
I really don't. Maybe it's one of those that... I'm glad it's probably one of those that goes over my head. So, here, this one I get. A robber came into my daycare and stole all my Dr. Seuss books. It was a nursery crime.
Yeah, that's good.
Yep. Here's one that I think we've had before, possibly. This is similar to this. What is the worst part about having to go to daycare as a police officer?
What?
There's always at least one kid napping and a bunch of resisting arrest.
Yeah, that was during the episode with Jane. That's right.
Yep.
That was good.
This one's a little sad. I think maybe to round this off. Why is it that your dogs have to be vaccinated to go to the park and daycare, but your kids don't have to be? Because it's sad when your dog dies.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
That one's a little touchy. Here, maybe this one actually I got a kick out of. Alright. Oh, what? Oh, well, why is it? Yeah, it's like double there. Police were called to my kids' daycare today. Apparently, after lunch break, several kids were resisting arrest. That's like the first one.
It was same. Yeah.
I donated some old board games to my local daycare. Hopefully, those kids like Ouija boards.
Oh, all right.
All right. Yeah. So I apologize for the crappy jokes tonight, guys. Thought I had some good ones, but after going through them, they weren't so great. Hey, guys, again, though, thank you for listening. Find us on YouTube. You can comment, like, subscribe, whatever you want to do on YouTube. Hit us up on Facebook. Hit me up on Twitter. TikTok, we'll have a shortcoming there on TikTok. But also, if you want to comment or send us an email, leashdads14@gmail.com. And you can also, if you want to, call in, leave us a message from Anchor FM, where the episode will also be posted. But other than that, guys, thank you very much for joining us. Hope you had a wonderful time, and hopefully this helps you get an idea of what daycare, babysitting, and balancing the wonderful work life with from home or wherever you're doing and providing for your child. As always, Jared, thanks for being an amazing constant co-host. We'll see you next time.
Anytime.